I have as my guest one of the great players in Major League Baseball during the 1970s and 80s. He spent a lot of years with the Los Angeles Dodgers and a few more with the San Diego Padres. He played in 5 World Series and was the National League's most valuable player in 1974 and a 10-time All-Star selection, winning the MVP in the game twice. It's Steve Garvey. Now, on September 1st of 1969, Steve, you made your debut, your dream, with the Los Angeles Dodgers. How did it feel?
I came up from Albuquerque. I played there. It was Double-A, Texas League, and they were playing the Mets. At about the 8th inning, Walter Olson said, "Hey, kid, grab a bat, and I want you to pinch hit for the pitcher." And the first pitch from a lefty by the name of Jack Delora, I hit just left of the foul pole down the left field line. Next pitch, I just missed the foul pole on the right field line. I stepped out of the box and I said, "No, this is pretty easy." And the next pitch, he threw me a screwball, which I'd never seen before, and I swung and missed, and the bat came out of my hand and landed like a javelin in left field. And I was 0 for 1, first time up, strike out, but I get back to the dugout, and Walter Olson said, "Well, son, at least you broke the Dodger Stadium record for longest toss of a bat this year." And he said, "You know what, you'll probably get a couple thousand hits before it's all over." And I ended up with 2,600 and proved him right.
Absolutely. Then, 5 years later, in 1974, came that first pennant for you as a Dodger. You played the Oakland A's in the 1974 World Series. Talk about that 74 season.
Well, it was a coming together. The year before, I had gone to first base for the first time on June 3rd of 73, which now completed the infield of Say and Russell Lopes and myself. So by 74, we had played together for at least half a year, going on a full year, and everything fell in place. We won our division, won the National League championship against Pittsburgh, played a very tough Oakland A's team that was experienced and had already won a couple of world championships, and lost to them. But it was the beginning of our championship reign, so to speak, in L.A.
Absolutely. Then in 1977, 3 years later, the Dodgers get off to a quick start, and they go off and they win the pennant. They beat the Phillies, several dramatic games in that series, but they beat the Phillies, and you go on and play the Yankees in the World Series. Talk about that series in 77.
Well, for me, having been, a bat boy from 7 to about 12, and also my dad had the Yankees several times in charters, so I was around them, and of course idolized Mickey Mantle along with Hodges and Reese, and to play the Yankees. And I always thought the Yankee-Dodger World Series were special. Not
Absolutely.
Only the previous 6 in New York, but this one was the renewal of this great rivalry. And although we lost, I thought that 77 team was probably the best one I had played on, and had fought through early adversities. And again, 2 World Series, 2 losses, but this was a team that was pretty formidable, and I think was 1 or 2 in wins in the major leagues at that point over that period of time.
And it's always tough to repeat as National League champions, to go back-to-back, to go 77 and 78. 1981, of course, was the strike year, but things came through for the Dodgers. They ended up they had to come from 0-2 down to beat Houston. And so they won the 3 at Dodger Stadium to win that. Then they go to Montreal. They're down 2-1 in Montreal, tie it up. And then that Monday, as we call it, on that Monday, Rick Monday hit that home run. The Dodgers beat the Expos in Game 5 of the 81 NLCS. Talk about that game.
Well, if you look at the chronology of that season, what took place, it was a year of destiny for us. Finally, after 3 World Series, it was our turn. A lot of great teams are denied that World Championship. Minnesota Vikings, for one, and some other teams.
Don't mention that, I'm a Viking fan.
Oh, sorry about that. But you just hope that it isn't you, and you hope that group that's going to stay together for 6, 7, 8, 10 years can accomplish our dream. And that was the year, getting behind 2 games, getting behind to Houston in the beginning, having miracles happen like Rick Mendy's home run, and then finishing off the Yankees in Game 6 at Yankee Stadium.
Absolutely.
You always want to finish it off at home, but in this case, to win there the way we did convincingly proved that we were the best team in the world.
And it's a situation where, of course, you were down 0-2 to the Yankees, too. You lost the first 2 in New York, came out here, 3 dramatic wins, and then you go to New York and you get that, there was a couple of rain delays in there, if I recall, a couple of rainouts, and then the Dodgers were able to win that.
Well, I told the guys every time we were down 0-2, we got them right where we wanted them.
Exactly, and they didn't want to go any further with you. Now, in 1983, Steve, you left the Dodgers and you go on to San Diego. Describe that transition.
Well, I was made an offer I could refuse, and I decided I had one contract left, and I never thought I wouldn't be a Dodger, but that's what happens sometimes. So you go on to where you feel is the next best place for you. And after talking with Ray Kroc, and he was a very convincing man, and he told me that he was very impressed by the things I did in the community and how I gave back, and that he thought I could make a difference. And so I decided it was still the National League, still the Western Division, not far from L.A., and I chose to play in San Diego. And then by the second year, we win for the first time there, go to the World Series, and change the whole mentality of not only San Diego, but San Diego fans around the country.
Jerry Coleman, the longtime Padre broadcaster, said that it was just an amazing run. I mean, the city was upside down, crazy. Yeah. The big game, of course, Steve, you remember this, your big home run, Game 4. The Cubs, of course, again, you're down 0-2.
Sure.
Somehow you find a way to come back. Down 0-2 to the Cubs. The Padres win the third game, then the fourth game on the Saturday night. You hit the big home run. How did that feel as you circled the bases with your fist above your head? Describe that moment.
Well, it was euphoric because I had hit plenty of home runs, and I thought I hit it well enough. And then to see Henry Cotto, who was the Cub right fielder, climb the wall for a moment, thinking he's going to make the greatest catch in postseason history, and then to see it hit off the wall about 5 feet above his glove, and pandemonium, and it was so loud that it was just like a wave of noise for the 60,000 people. So by the time I get to home plate, I'm mobbed, I lose my shoe. There's a great picture of me being on the guy's shoulders, and I'm holding the shoe. And it wasn't, we had one more game to go, but that moment defined, I think, the change in feelings by the Padre fans. This is how a winner looks, acts, and what you need to do when you're down.
And Dick Williams, of course, who worked the miracles in Boston and Oakland, and then in San Diego. Sure. Of course, you did beat the Cubs the next day. You go to the World Series against the Tigers, which the Tigers, that was a great Tiger team.
It was, and they had been off a week, and everybody was rested, and we won one game in San Diego, never got out of Detroit.
Okay.
But give them a lot of credit. They were a great team with Gibson and Trammell and Whitaker and Sparky Anderson's leadership and Roger Craig. So it was their destiny that year. But just to get to the World Series was a victory in itself for the Padres, the organization, and the fans.
Who was the toughest pitcher you ever had to face?
Well, I've always said that I faced, I think, 13 or 14 Hall of Famers, but Phil Niekro was always the toughest pitcher because he threw the knuckleball.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know where it was going, catcher didn't know where it was going, and you're supposed to hit it. So, and I was more of a guesstimator. I really tracked the pitchers and the sequences and how catchers and pitchers worked, and so. But with him, he just threw it up there and dared you to hit it, and it was tough.
All your years in the major leagues, what do you feel was the best team overall during that time, the 70s and 80s?
Well, two teams. 77 for pure talent and the ability to just dominate another team. But 81, you have to pick that team because we won the World Championship. It did what it had to do with its talent, cohesiveness. It was just everything came together. But those two teams, one with more talent, the other one with the ability to win the big game.
Describe real quick the difference between playing in San Diego and playing in Los Angeles. You played in both.
Well, I always said that San Diego was more of a sabbatical. You went down there, it was a whole different mentality and attitude. The breezy winds off the ocean, Mission Valley, laid-back attitude, 24th market instead of number 2. Just different approaches. L.A., the Dodgers, great history, San Diego developing. But it was a nice balance for me, and if I didn't think I'd ever play any place but L.A., I think San Diego was the best place for me.